Hi, I'm Dr. Karen Hills Pruden, and this is another episode of Sister Leaders, the podcast. And I am so excited. I know you say, Dr. Karen, you get excited about everything. Well, yeah, I do, because we have some awesome sister leaders in this world, and today is no different. So we have Dr. Laura Jones, who is going to tell us all about what she do in this space called life, what problems she solved, who her ideal client. I'm excited. I'm excited. So I am going to let her introduce herself. And you know, we do. We have an organic conversation based off of what the guest leader talks about. And so I am not going to make you wait any further. So, Dr. Laura, welcome to the Sister Leaders Podcast.
Thank you so much, Dr. Karen. I'm so excited about being here. I've been waiting to be able to talk to you. So thank you so much.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about you, your business, what problems you solve, who your ideal client, what you're doing lately. Let's just talk.
Sure. Thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity. So for me, I'll just start with, I spent the earlier part of my life in the Army. So I spent 21 years on active duty service, jumping out of helicopters, sliding out of helicopters, jumping out of airplanes, had a lot of fun in my career. So 21 years later, retired, went on to be a global management consultant with a large consulting firm. I was in the DC area, so got to a lot of clients like the Pentagon and Department of Treasury, Homeland Security, you name it. And mainly in the background of working with quality assurance for those companies and risk management. And so beyond that, I transitioned with my family, moved to Atlanta. And from there, I began to meet with more corporate clients and working with them, establishing their risk management programs. So what do I do for them? Why did they need risk management programs? One, when we think about cybersecurity, when we think about all the things that could go wrong in the cyber world, all the hacking, the fraud, the cyber criminals, all of these things that we read about, that we experience sometimes, I'm there to help these companies think through some of those issues before they become those aha, gotcha sort of things that happen in these companies. So I work with the leaders. We sit down, we talk about what are some of the risks that they could be facing in their industries. And then we also talk about what are some of the plans or the strategies that we can put in place to help them reduce the risk. I'll say if something does happen, they don't want to be shut down. They don't want to go out of business. So how can we soften the blow if something happens? So that's what I do. I've been doing that since 2007. And so my forte is really starting programs from scratch, global programs. I've had times where I've gone into an office, there was nothing but a broken monitor on a desk that said, with a sticky that said broken, to just having to start a program there, to just making it full, robust, and to deploy it globally so that they can reach their people and client and really put that program into place. So that's what I do, Dr. Karen.
I love that. And that sounds exciting. So risk management, and then I'm thinking cybersecurity, which are, I mean, cyber anything is hot nowadays.
Yes.
And so I am thinking about my walk as a leader in corporate America and all of the different trainings that we had to go through in regards to the do's and don'ts of what to do online, what to click on and what not to click on, and all those different things. And why is it so important for employees to be proactive? I understand the opportunity for data to get into the hands of those that it shouldn't. I understand that. But why is it so important for employers to be proactive with employees about how to conduct themselves using systems and processes, anything that's automated, and in terms of technology?
Really good questions. And I love what you had to say about the training. And as a leader, making sure that the training was done, and you yourself have had to do that and also take the training. Honestly, the number one attack vector, meaning that transport, just like an 18-wheeler drives and delivers goods. So people are those 18-wheelers for cyber criminals that are trying to get into organizations. So they're the number one attack surface. They're the vehicle that really those cyber criminals use to try and get into organizations. So people have to be trained. They have to know what to look for. Yes, we have to click on some things. There are some attachments we'll send each other. We have to click on some things, but we also have to know what looks suspicious. And how do we tell if something is suspicious? Because there are ways to tell. And so while we have to do our jobs, while we have to continue to lean forward and use emails, we also have to be on guard about what is suspicious and what could go wrong, because one click, it could shut an entire company down. That's ransomware. It's the equivalent of taking a physical chain, and putting it around a computer, all around a computer, so that you can't even use it. So in the virtual sense, that's what happens when these hackers and cyber criminals will send something through email to a person, to an employee, and they click on a link, they click on some attachment, access some site that they shouldn't. And before you know it, there's malicious ware on the network. And then we have what we call ransomware, just like a ransom. Now these folks want to be paid. If you want your data back, if you want your systems released back to you, you're going to pay this ransom. You're going to pay it in cryptocurrency so that it's untraceable, so that we're going to get our money. You may or may not get your data back. And if we do give it back, it's probably not going to be in the same condition. We're probably not going to give it all back. So there's just all of these different reasons to make sure that we address people, to make sure that their training is done. And not only that, but we have a lot of oversight now from a cyber risk perspective. The Securities and Exchange Commission for publicly traded companies, they've become really, really sort of tough, if you will, on companies. And it's not unreasonable. It's just to make sure that we as citizens, we as taxpayers, we as stakeholders with a lot of these companies that we use, they're reducing their risk. They're protecting our data. They're protecting our children and our grandchildren's data, because cyber criminals, they want data. And yeah, they want it from folks that are established like you and I, Dr. Karen, but they would much prefer to get the data, honestly, of a child. Because from the time that child is born until that child hits about 16, 17, when they start using their social for a job, nobody's really monitoring that social security number. So those cyber criminals, those thieves could get that information and sell it over and over and over again. It's just, there's so many things that could go wrong, including fines. Like I mentioned, the SEC. People can get fined. And now with a lot of the cyber leaders out there, it's gotten very serious. People can actually go to jail if they aren't doing their due diligence and protecting the environment the way that they should. So people are the number one priority to make sure that everything is good.
I love that. And let's talk about, for those of us who drive cars, part of our, I don't know if it's risk management, but we're required to have insurance.
Yes.
So you have to you get your license, which you get a bit of training so that you can pass the driver's test. So you got the training part of it. And then we have insurance for what if. So is there insurance for organizations that can help offset the cost of lost data, lost client data? Is there a market for insurance that employers can buy for this type of thing?
Absolutely. That's another great question. And honestly, that market is ramping up, because the more that these cyber threats are proliferated, the more we are being attacked in more advanced ways. Organizations have to offset that threat. And so one of the strategies, there are several strategies that they can use to respond to risk. And one of it is transferring risk. While companies will never be alleviated from risk, they can still transfer it to insurance companies to say, if something goes wrong, we have to pay a ransom, for example, we can have cyber liability insurance. So there's absolutely a market for it. These cyber insurance brokers will send questionnaires. They'll go through an organization's security posture to really understand what they have in place, what they don't have in place. And that's a large part of how they assess how much insurance they will not only need, but what their premiums will be. So absolutely. And it's similar to us in our private lives. We buy insurance because God forbid if anything should happen to us, we don't want to leave our loved ones, in a bad way. So car insurance, life insurance, we have to have it because we're looking to transfer some of that risk. We can't stop the potential outcome, but what we can do, as I said, is soften the blow. Now people aren't starting from scratch, having to do GoFundMes, right, to make sure things are done like we see so much of. But that's a risk strategy to help soften the blow, reduce the impact if something were to happen. Excellent question, Dr. Karen.
I love that. So a large portion of our listenership are entrepreneurs. And so they are working from their offices, from their laptops or their desktops. And which I have found, I've slowed down over the years, but I have found we're moving fast. And so we get an email, it looks just like the real thing, PayPal, Capital, whatever, looks just like the real thing. But upon observation, things that you can notice, and I know that you can notice, at least in the ad, to let you know that this is not what you think it is. Even the page looks exactly the way you would look, and that's in the address. In the address. And so what I look for now, because here that I got for like $800, and I'll share that. But what would one look for in the address when you get a page or get an email, it looks just like the real thing? What do you double check in the address to ensure that it is indeed a legit address? I guess that's the best way to say it.
Yeah. So one of the terms that we use in cybersecurity is called spoofing, and it's much like tricking. So a lot of even the URLs, those web addresses that we see, up top in the web address bar, they can be faked. So while, to your point, they look very legitimate, one of the things that we look for is that it's a secure site. So HTTPS. S stands for secure. Now, is it 100%? Absolutely not. Nothing in life is 100%, but now we're getting closer to the mark. We're getting closer to security. So instead of using a plain address, and not all addresses will carry the S, some people just haven't ported over to it, transferred over to it, but look for that S for one thing. Also, look for a legitimate email address. If you see a bunch of random strings and characters and things like that, it probably feels a little bit off. And I always say if something feels off, then it probably is. What you can do is you can actually call the company and verify that you got this email, especially if it's, say, banking or something to do with mortgage or something very important and personal, especially finances. Pause and stop. So if you got say we banked with, I don't know, we'll pick something, Bank of America or any bank, and we got an email that says, hey, need to verify X, Y, and Z. Pause. Don't click the link. They're saying, hey, go here. No, they don't want you to do that most of the time. So what you can do is go into your app. You've probably got the app. Verify things that way. If you need to verify an address or update information or verify a deposit, what have you, go into the app. Or simply call that toll-free number and make sure that you're talking to a person. The other thing, sometimes if it feels like it is a legitimate email, still don't click on it. If there's an email address, not just a click here, but an actual address, web address, then you'll take that and put it back in the URL in that bar. And then you can, hit enter there. So don't click on it, but actually go and put it back in, or you type it in as you know it, right? So that you're getting as legitimate and close to what looks right as possible. There are a number of things that you can do, but that's what you want to do. So that's what you can look for in terms of the web address. The email itself, 90% of phishing attacks, that is where they're trying to get that human engagement, trying to get at that data. So they're trying to trick us. 90% of attacks start through emails. So that's pretty high, and that's engagement with people. So back to your original question of people and security awareness, it's important. So what we can do there are look for some telltale signs. It's not 100%, but one of the things, if it sounds urgent, first of all, you're not even expecting this email. It doesn't matter if it's from the CEO of the company. You're not expecting it. Oh, it's urgent. Do this thing right away. We need this thing to happen right away. Stop and go double check. Call. You don't even have to forward the email. Don't forward that same email, as a matter of fact, because it could have viruses in it. So do something different. Call, text, use a different email, start a different email thread. The other thing you're going to look for are spelling errors. A lot of times people are either careless or they're coming in from other parts of the world who may not have a good command and grasp on English. So you'll tend to see a lot of mistakes in that email. Also, if you've ever put a document together where you're pulling from other documents and the pitch is different, the font is different, everything's different until you clean it up, sometimes when you start seeing what looks like a cut and paste in emails, that could be, very suspicious as well, because it's not just standard typing at that point. It's people putting things together. And if it's a professional email, you're typically not going to see that. So stop again. Also, take your mouse and scroll over the email address that email actually came from. Because if it's a professional environment, usually you're going to see a .com, or we have some sort of extension on our email address, and maybe it wouldn't be coming from a Gmail account. Or, if that's what we're using in terms of being in business, that's one thing. But if I'm at, some big company or some small company and we have email addresses that we should be using, I shouldn't be getting random domains or the back part of the email address that at. Everything after at should be more professional. So, and then look at the time. Is the email being sent from 2 and 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning? Sure, I'm tell you, sometimes I'm up sending emails at that time. I don't expect a response, but I'm sending them. So again, if we think about where these emails might be coming from, sure, United States, absolutely, but other parts of the world, that might be normal daytime for them, but not so much for us. So look at all of those different things. And as the hairs on the back of your neck start standing up like, oh, something is off, trust your instinct. Trust your instinct.
I love that. I love that. And your passion comes through. And so I am so excited, because my next question kind of comes in line with we have a nonprofit that is going to be coming on board in 2024, and it's sister leaders. It's about young sister leaders who are going into the careers of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And so my next question is, how did Dr. Laura find herself in cybersecurity? Tell us how did you navigate your way? What is a story behind it, or a pain point behind it, or you were just wonderful in technology from one, or what's the story? There's got to be a story.
There is. So unlike today, where you have artificial intelligence and blockchain and cryptocurrencies, you have all of these different technologies all over the place, all these different devices. Back in 2007, not so long ago, but we didn't really have all of that, right? So all I knew was technology as an industry was the way to go. I was seeing the handwriting on the wall. Where I was working with a lot of organizations, I was actually working with the Treasury at the time, and there was a project that I was on that dealt with technology, but also a component of cybersecurity around making sure that we had verifiable access of employees. And so whereas I started asking to be put on technology projects, I started seeing more and hearing more and more about the cybersecurity. Because to your point, Dr. Karen, those that are in cybersecurity for sure, when we were young, we didn't say, oh, I'm going to grow up to be a cybersecurity expert, because it just wasn't a thing. And so my path then was through technology. And the more I learned about information security, cybersecurity, the more I became interested in it. I'm not that person to go and take a computer apart and put it back to, I can take it apart, but putting it back together is a different matter, right? So I'm heavy on the business requirements. I'm heavy on understanding what the risks are. I'm heavy on stakeholder engagement to help fuel the business and get their needs met. So with the cybersecurity component, I wanted to combine my background with my master's in quality systems management, my doctorate in product management with the focus on reputation risk. Everything I do is really about risk. So even back then, I started tracking myself toward technology, but then it became cybersecurity because this field is so dynamic. It's hyper dynamic. It's very interesting. So that's how I got into this industry, and I've just grown a footprint across this industry, especially where cyber risk is more prominent. And so I do a lot of things there. I had a goal before COVID to go around the world and speak about cyber risk, and actually every continent was my goal. So I made it over to the Middle East. I made it to Europe, throughout North America. But then as right before COVID, I started writing children's books because I am a mother, grown children, all ladies, and then I'm a grandmother. So as gaming becomes more prevalent, as our world really expands, virtual reality, artificial into all of this, I felt like I needed to do something to help reach children. So I started writing these children's picture books around cyber safety, cyber security. And so I'm going to continue with that series. I have 2 books. My little characters are Cyber Kai and Techie Guy. So they talk about cyber and tech. And the books also mention careers because I want us to start, talking to our kids about cyber and tech. And I've been saying since 2019, that as caring adults, we spend a lot of time with our kids, taking them here and there, learning about, golf and basketball and football and ballet and dance and all of those things, piano lessons, whatever it is that we want them to be interested in and great at later. But we put these devices in their hands and we really don't give it a second thought. So that's been my message for years now. And I've been saying that same thing, and that hasn't changed. So I'm going to continue to write these books. I'm going to continue with this series. The other things that I do sort of off to the side and working with adults, one of the things that I do is in academia as well. So I work with 2 universities. One is Capital Technology University, where I work with doctoral students to help them along their doctoral journey in cybersecurity leadership. And I also work for Carnegie Mellon University. They have a Chief Risk Officers program that I actually attended, and they invited me back to be a coach. So I'm now coaching. This is my 7th team that I'm coaching now. And so those are some of the things that I do. So it is a passion. You mentioned that, and I just love to talk about it. I love to train. I like to see the light bulb go off and people understand this is not just some thing, that's Dr. Laura's thing. No, if you're a business owner, you have to think about risk, especially a small business owner. I know I was a small business owner. I still am. I have a consulting firm. I used to have a restaurant. So I know what it means to have your nose to the grindstone and not have time for all that extra stuff. I'm trying to grow a footprint. I'm trying to make money. I'm trying to keep my people happy, I'm trying to keep my people, all of those things. But there are big companies that are no longer around because they did not properly manage the risk when the handwriting was on the wall. They didn't evolve. So they're no longer here. And they had a lot of money. And so for smaller companies, it's absolutely imperative that they think about how to manage risk, cyber risk, especially because those carry implications as well. And especially if you partner with bigger companies, they're going to want to know, are you secure? Because as we bring you on, you could engender risk to our company. So we need to know that you're secure. So it begins to be very big and very full. And I'm just all over with it. I'm just all over the place with it because I love it. And there's just so much to do.
I love it as well. I can see your face just lights up. And so I'm going to share my experience that I had where I'll say I got for the lack of proper English. My mom would probably lose her mind if she heard me say it, but I got. And I want you to be thinking about my next question to you is, what are the competencies that are needed for someone to enter into a career for cybersecurity? Like what are those competencies? People can figure out if I'm good at that, or if I like this or enjoy that, maybe this might be something for me to explore. And so share with you my experience. So as a busy entrepreneur, got a email from Western Union. And at that time I was doing a lot of business with Western Union. Busy, clicked on the link, asked for banking information or something, put it in there because I did business with them all the time, didn't think anything about it. Send it away, clicked it, submit, or whatever. So 2 days later, I got an alert from my bank, which was Bank of America, that Western Union was pulling $800 out of my checking account. And so I was like, no, that's not supposed to be going on or whatever. So then Bank of America, I filed a report with them. And then they told me that I had to wait for it to post before they can put it back in my account. So I did what I was supposed to do. So then I slowed down. When that happened, I slowed down and I looked at the email.
Yes.
And it was exactly what you said. So the email, it wasn't from Western Union. It looked like Western Union, but it had one different letter in the website, a different letter. And then the email that I received had several misspelled words in it that, again, not big misspelled words. If you're moving quickly, you wouldn't catch it because the logo and everything was Western Union's colors. When I opened it up, I was very familiar with what I saw, so I didn't question it. And so that experience taught me to slow down. And if I am busy, I don't click on links anymore unless I know exactly what that link is related to. Two, I'm never too busy anymore for anything when it comes to clicking. And so it was a lesson. I wasn't out in money because Bank of America put the money immediately back in my account after I filed it. But that could have been wrong in so many ways. I mean, as a small entrepreneur, I mean, $800 could have, if the bank would have fought me or, didn't put it back in my account, I mean, it could have been the difference between a whole lot of things at that period in my entrepreneurship. And so that one experience is all it took for me.
That's all it takes.
Yeah, I'm never too busy. I pay attention. And then if I am too busy, then I just don't click on anything.
There you go.
So if it's that important, then call me. If it's that important, all your banking institutions, your credit cards or whatever, they have your number. If it's that important that they need you to do something that minute and you don't do it that minute, they will call you.
That's right. That's right.
And so that was the lesson that I learned. But man, you had that not happened to me, you could not have told me that wasn't a legit Western Union. I mean, it really looked legit in haste. But once I slowed down and really looked at it, no, it was a whole lot of things that should have cautioned me to question what I was doing, but I just wasn't paying it any mind. So that was my experience. So let's talk about competencies for those who are interested in a career in cybersecurity. That is a hot industry because there's no going back. Everything that we do so much online now, if anything, our traffic is going to increase, but there is no reduction that's coming in the years to come. If anything, it's going to be increasing. So what competencies should one think about? Do you have to be like for leaders, you lead people, lead change using technology and analytics. So if you're interested in cybersecurity, you should be interested at what, per se?
If you're interested in general with cybersecurity, because I need to start here. If somebody says, I'm going to medical school, I want to be a doctor, you're going to say, what kind of doctor, right? And based on, they're going to have all these general courses, all these general things they need to know. Then they're going to specialize, like most industries. Cybersecurity is the same way. I want to go into cybersecurity. What part of cybersecurity? Because it's not just one size fits all. So it's important to know that you can generalize, be a cybersecurity analyst. You're going to know a lot of things. Most leaders and most professionals in cybersecurity will know those things. They will know about governance. They will know about risk. They will know about the need to be compliant. They will know what encryption is, right? When we mask data, they will know what data protect. They will know a lot of things that are common, and then they will begin to specialize. So a lot of what the competencies will entail will be what area they want to go into. So I would say, and I'm going to speak generally then, and say that a person who wants to go into cybersecurity should be someone who appreciates a very fast-paced environment, who is able to work in a very, very dynamic, hyper dynamic environment, one who can be very adaptable to change, because nothing, everything changes, but in cybersecurity, it continues to change. We don't know what the cyber criminals are cooking up in the lab. So a lot of times we can't get in front of these things. We have to kind of lag a little bit. When it comes, there we go. Now we're after it. Day one, 0 day, what we call a 0-day exploit, when they're able to take advantage of a vulnerability that we knew nothing about. And so we have to keep up with that. So the other thing then is to be very flexible and very adaptable. Be resilient. That's the word we use, is resiliency, so that you are resilient, so that you can continue to ebb and flow with this environment, knowing what you know with confidence, but also be inquisitive. It takes a lot of reading. It takes a lot of attending webinars. It takes a lot of just learning on your own. It is really about aligning to organizations. It's about aligning to knowing your own internal policies. It's knowing regulatory requirements for your industry, and then how that translates to your job. For example, if you're protecting data, what are some of the laws you need to know about? How does that translate to you protecting data with your job, with the technology, with the cybersecurity measures that you'll put in place? What do you need to do and to close gaps, to make sure there are no loopholes or weaknesses in the technology where the cyber attackers can exploit those and get to the information? There's just a lot of different, I would say, characteristics that you would have to have as a cybersecurity professional. What I will say is this: it doesn't matter if you like art, if you love business. It doesn't have, your degree doesn't even have to be cybersecurity. There's a place for you in this industry. My husband, who went to school, a long time ago for art, he's now taught himself to use artificial intelligence. He's generating art. He's now built himself an Etsy store where he's doing African-American wrapping paper for Christmas. So, art, right? So that's not necessarily cybersecurity, but it is using digital assets, and it's understanding. When we talk about payment and payment systems and having stores online, that's where we come in. There's the payment card industry. Everybody else would probably call it credit card industry. Payment card industry, there's a standard that governs that. You have to have good security in place so people's credit cards won't be breached, people's personally identifiable information. So it takes being inquisitive. It takes caring, having a duty of caring for this profession, and really caring about what you do. It takes, I would say it, I've never heard anybody else say this, but from my own experience, I will say that it takes a level of appreciation for compliancy. So we know that there's this thing about compliance. That's why we do our training, so we can show our auditors, all of that. But the people who are professionals, they should have an element of wanting not necessarily themselves to be compliant, but to make sure that the environment is compliant. So you have a healthy appreciation for that. So that is what I would say. It's being inquisitive, it's being adaptable, it's figuring out kind of what you want to do in this space. It's going after those certifications. So continuing to learn, self-development. What we know, 10 years ago and getting a degree, it's great to say I got the degree, but so much has changed. But what I like to do with people too, Dr. Karen, and I used to spend a lot of time, almost 4 nights out of every week, people would just send people my way. Hey, can you help this person? Can you help that person? They want to get into cybersecurity. I don't have the time as much anymore, but I can literally take a resume and pull out the aspects of cybersecurity. And people can do that. You can look at your own resume. People can look at their own resume, even as entrepreneurs, and say, I protect data. I protect credit card information. I protect, so you may not know all the networking sort of ins and out and intricacies, but certainly at a high level, there's absolutely things that are done in business every single day that relate to cybersecurity. So those are some of the characteristics I would say. I know that's a lot that I packed in there, but it's really about being a self-learner. It's about being adaptable, being flexible, also being a good communicator. Because say you're that really technical person, you're taking the computer apart, leader walks up, kind of want to understand how that relates to cybersecurity. They don't want to hear a bunch of X's and zeros and ones, and I was gonna say X's and O's, but zeros and ones, right? They don't want to hear all the bits and bytes information unless they ask for that. They need you to be able to translate technical to business speak. What does this mean to the business? Because we're a cost center. We don't generate revenue. We protect the revenue. We protect the business, the part of the organization that makes the money. So we have to be able to take what we know and translate that to say, this is why it's important to you and the survivability of this company. So we have to be good communicators as well.
I love all that. I love all of that. So as we wrap up, if you could share with the Sister Leaders community how they can stay in contact with you, if you have anything coming up that you would love for us to support you, a book, a class, or whatever it is, let us know how we can find you on virtually as well. Just share with us how we can stay connected.
Oh, absolutely. So a couple of different ways. One, my website, drlaurajones.com. You can connect with me there. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm Laura A. Jones, PhD. If you don't put the PhD on there, there's 50 million seems like Laura Jones. So make sure you put the PhD and look for me, look for my locks, right? And so you'll find me there. Please connect with me. Yeah, that should do it. That should keep us connected. In terms of, that's going to help if you'll just do that, because I am going to continue on with my books. I also have another project in the works around STEM. So I am going to be talking about the conventional acronym of science, technology, engineering, and math. But I'm also going to be doing something a little bit different. There's 3 different aspects of STEM I want to talk about. Another one will be around the spiritual aspects of STEM. So it'll be spiritual, theological, evangelical, and then majestic, right? And then there's even another one that I'll introduce later in the book. So I won't just give away that right now, but just connect with me, and then we can, stay connected, and you'll know more about my projects.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And so this has been another episode of Sister Leaders, the podcast. And of course, we drop a new podcast every Monday. And so you can look forward to another episode on next Monday. And of course, we have loved this chat with Dr. Laura. So make sure to connect with her and connect with tribe, whoever her tribe may be. And we know she is a STEM-aholic. And so, how I feel about STEM, and it is, we all have, whether it's direct and indirect, we all have tasks and responsibilities associated with them. And so it's all you look at your job. And so thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Dr. Karen.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.